Good afternoon. We'll begin the Plan Committee meeting of Akron City Council. I believe it's 1:30. Can wait a moment. Okay, we'll begin the Plan Committee meeting of Akron City Council. Clerk, do you have the minutes of the previously held meeting? We have two items that are up for public hearing this afternoon and this evening. The procedure is this. What we will do is we'll swear in those that wish to testify before the committee this afternoon, and we'll repeat that procedure this evening at 7 o'clock. The committee will conduct the public hearing this afternoon, make no recommendation. However, though, this evening, after that public hearing, the committee will then make a recommendation. And so before this public hearing, I'd like to recommend those that wish to testify before the committee in reference to these conditional use requests. Please stand up and be sworn in by a representative of our law department.
Please raise your right hand and answer in the affirmative. Do you swear or bear the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Thank you. The first item. Remember to do that. Hello. First item is ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a mixed-use retail apartment development at 953 East Market Street. Mr. Antonucci.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, committee members. East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation is seeking permission to establish a mixed-use retail and 40-unit apartment building at this location to be called Middlebury Commons. The L-shaped building would be situated 18.5 feet behind Market Street right-of-way and 6 feet behind the Broad Street right-of-way. Exterior construction materials would consist of a mix of earth tone brick with a flat roof of varying heights. The 5 storefronts would contain a mix of stone masonry and glass. The western half of the first floor would be occupied by built-to-suit storefronts totaling 13,000 square feet of retail space. The remaining building would contain 40 residential units, some of which would be handicap accessible. Each floor would contain 10 two-bedroom units and 8 single-bedroom units. A 72-space paved landscape parking area would be located north of the building and be accessed through a curb cut on Broad Street. The parking area would be amply landscaped, including an infiltration reservoir area that would also be utilized as a circular drop-off and pickup area. Furthermore, a landscape garden area with planters would be sited west of the property, addressed to 60 Broad Street. This development is targeted towards low and moderate income citizens. It's anticipated that a significant amount of the residents will not own vehicles, so the amount of off-street parking provided is sufficient. Furthermore, it's anticipated that the potential retail uses will be mainly utilized by people who live or are currently parked within walking distance. Objectives of the Land Use and Development Guide Plan include promoting good design standards and guiding the location of retail business to existing business areas versus the establishment of new or expanded areas. The proposed development meets these goals by reutilizing a current vacant retail site and establishing it in a manner that is desirable in an urban setting. The Middlebury neighborhood is historically significant since it was Akron's first neighborhood. This area has not witnessed any new residential retail development in quite some time, and the proposal would help redevelop and enliven this neighborhood that borders the edge of downtown. Both Planning Commission and Planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. At this point, we'll open the public hearing for 953 East Market Street. If there's anyone wishing to speak in favor of the conditional use, please come forward and provide for us your name and address.
Good afternoon. I'm Grady Appleton, President and CEO of East Akron Neighborhood Development Corporation, located at 550 South Arlington Street in Akron, Ohio. We're very excited about Middlebury Commons. As you have heard, it's going to be a mixed-use project strategically located at the corner of East Market Street, Broad, and also Arlington. and an Exchange Street, I should say. It'll be a project that will leverage and catalyze investments in the Middlebury community. I have with me this afternoon our civil engineer, which is going to review the site plan for you. Also have a representative from our architect's company, Moda Design, will review the elevations with you. And my urban planner is with me as well. And also have a representative from the general contractor. We basically urge your approval of this petition. We will abide by the recommendations listed in the Planning Department's memorandum. So I think at this point in time, I'm going to call upon Bob Warner, who's going to review the site plan with you. Bob?
Good afternoon. I'm Bob Warner with Environmental Design Group. Our address is 450 Grand Street, Akron. I have an exhibit I'd like to put up there and discuss with you.
Right here.
Again, my name is Bob Warner. This is our site plan. As mentioned, we have Market Street here and Broad Street and Kent Street. The building is designed to mirror those street angles here. And it's situated with retail space facing the Market Street. We have retail space that faces the intersection down here. And then this is primarily residential space on the first floor, and the upper floor is there. Was mentioned, we have our access to the site is off of Broad Street. We've got designed a turnaround area in here, drop-off loop. This is also acts as our stormwater management facility. This is a porous pavement with a water storing reservoir underneath that handles all of our stormwater from this parking lot. So everything drains and is use that to soak into the ground and provide us with stormwater management. We have some retaining walls because of the grade change, and we have approximately about 9 feet of grade change across the face of this building on Market Street and about 7 feet across here. So we have, as you'll come in here, you'll be able to park along Market Street, and then you'll be able to enter the site. There's the building sits back approximately 18 feet from the right-of-way, and there'll be a retaining wall with a fence, a decorative fence across the top of it that meets the requirements for handrails. And then you'll be able to enter that plaza, we call it the plaza area, from at grade down here near the existing buildings that are there. You'll be able to enter here and then access all these. We also have some planned staircases to get down to this lower level. And at the corner, we're going to be doing improvements on what currently is city-owned land that's kind of a grass area with a couple of trees. We're going to be turning that into more of a park setting that's usable by the residents and the neighbors there, and you'll be able to access it off of these parking lot or off of these staircases. Again, when you come in through the back, this is all handicapped accessible. The walls in here are going to be a decorative concrete or a brick face. We haven't worked that out, but it's going to give us a prominent view as you're coming up from the east end. Development, you'll have some wall there. We'll be able to have some identifying marks on that. And then all of our parking is back here. Again, we mentioned there is some garden space. As you come across the back of the lot here, we've got a tail of property that comes out to Kent Street. We actually own the property across the street as well. We're going to put some planting gardens in here for the residents to vegetables or flower plantings in some beds that are kind of terraced up the hill to get up, make up the grade change from this parking lot up to here, which is actually only about 6 feet in elevation.
Thank you. Very good. Anyone else here?
Yeah, also, we have our architect who can review the elevations with you. Brett?
Hi, my name is Brett Moses. I'm with Moda Design Group, 2335 2nd Street, Suite A, Cuyahoga Falls. I have an exhibit as well that I'd like to show.
Come on up. Kind of old school here.
so this represents the view from Broad and along Market Street. And based on going by what Bob had told you, we have this retail area that is basically facing that whole intersection. And above that, we have 2 stories of residential living units. What we've done, we do have this issue with the way the grade changes, so the building needs to sit up. We took that as sort of an opportunity to make the building feel as if it sits up on a plinth. And we opened up the staircase in the corner. And we'll be providing this railing only up to a minimum, just 8 inches above the retail level. And then we'll put a wrought iron railing so that there will be some visibility through that. The big challenge is trying to be able to get visibility to the retail level from Market Street as you're driving up the hill. We're proposing a mix of stone and brick and siding, and really trying to separate sort of the retail level from what's above. Design view sort of taken from a mixture of historic Goodyear look with a little bit of kind of the Tudor to historic sort of Tudor approach design taken from the street. So trying to reflect on history of an economic way. That's the challenge.
Very good. Thank you. Mr. Appleton?
Any other questions for us?
Not this time. This is the public hearing portion, so if you have someone else who wishes to say a few words, they're welcome. And then after the public hearing's over, we'll then ask questions.
So I'm Joel Testa, president of Testa Companies. My address is 21 Furnace Street, downtown Akron. So as many of you might have been aware, this project originated with a group that was assembled by the city of Akron to go after a grant from the Reinvestment Fund, and the members of that team were our Testa Companies, EANDC, SUMA, and the city of Akron. And this grant was really an 18-month urban planning grant designed to look at how to improve healthcare through the built environment, looking at social determinants of health. And so the team picked Middlebury as the area that is the most fragile currently in the city of Akron in terms of healthcare, having one of the highest infant mortality rates in the country, and looking at what is causing those. So this project was really the catalytic project from the research that we did and the community outreach that we did, where neighbors feel insecure because of gaps in the infrastructure, because of areas of blight, areas of darkness in the neighborhood, and this being really at the heart of where all of our main intersections come together, and a way to tie in the investment that's happening around Middlebury with the East End development, with Stark State, with the things happening on all areas to sort of bring people into this community and elevate the values and ultimately elevate the standard of living in that neighborhood. So I just want you to know that this was born out of that process, and we feel is critical for the extended life of the Middlebury neighborhood.
Okay. Mr. Appleton, is there anyone else you wish to introduce?
That's it.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this proposed development on East Market Street, 953 East Market Street? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor?
Yes, hello. My name is Jess Ennis, and I'm with a company called Dovetail Solar and Wind from Cleveland. And whenever I see empty, large roof space, I get very excited. I would like to suggest that the city, the developer, the organization consider including solar power for the building, not only for the beneficial environmental reasons, but also to help the residents there alleviate much of their electricity costs, which can be quite burdensome.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thanks. Anyone else here wishing to speak in favor of the proposed development? Anyone else in favor? Anyone against? Anyone wishing to speak against the proposed development at 953 East Market? Anyone against? Hearing none, now we'll open it up for questions from the committee members. If there's any questions whatsoever. My question to you, sir, is have you contacted the developers about your idea?
Speaking?
Yes, sir.
Yes, as a matter of fact.
Okay. Good. Very good. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anyone? The parking has been reviewed, I assume, by our traffic engineer?
Yes, yes. So they have the 72 on site and then the potential for some around there on street parking. We feel that the parking is adequate for that elderly housing.
Very good. Thank you. Ms. Mobian.
And the ingress and egress are both from Broad Street? Is that what I heard?
Yes.
And the parking along East Market is just, once you get inside, you can go around there. You can't exit.
Yeah, there would be on-street parking on Market Street.
On street? Mm-hmm. Okay. And that's not going to cause any problem with congestion? Okay.
Traffic diet. Sims?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So how much was the planning grant for? Do you remember? Was 60,000. Was there a charrette for that community too, as we developed the plans for this? And if there is, can I get a copy of what your?
Yes, so we have been working on the community engagement side since building out of the Better Block that was held in July 2016. Is that right? Did I get the right year? Was it 2016. If you remember the 3-day transformation of the intersections. And then we've been working with neighborhood stakeholders, with the WELL Community Development Corporation, with the Neighborhood Network, and engaging with folks about the future of the neighborhood, not only about the project, not only about the intersection, but about the wider Middlebury context. And we're collaborating with some of those other neighborhood organizations to produce a planning document that will outline what a community-engaged development scenario would look like for the whole of the neighborhood, not only the commercial areas, but out into the residential areas as well.
So we don't currently have a...
It's not finished yet, no. We should be early 2018, yeah. We'll have a document for that.
Last question. Last week we had a group, the homeless camp that came down. Do we know what the implication is on some of the work that's being done there with that group?
That's a good question. I'll yield that to the planning department, that question.
So we've been in ongoing discussions about the 15 Broad Street property, and I think we'll continue to work through those and keep both projects in mind as we do that.
Thank you. Yes?
So so what's the implication on passage on this and that work that's being done with that group?
I don't know if I completely understand the question, but I don't know that there would be an implication as such at this time.
I could speak a little bit. This is been working with Ian to see and the What's Next committee, which is a rollout of or a spinoff, I should say, from the Middlebury Better Block from 2 years ago, and that group, as well as and I can't remember the exact name, the health group, has been talking on a continued basis about what can be done and what positive impacts that what's next, basically, for the Middlebury community. And this fits in with that. In addition to, there's also a bike and hike trail that we've been talking about. There's just a number of things to kind of reinvest in that particular community there. And I think this is a great complementary use, especially given the fact that what the uses are around there. And I see I see. That's a good question in reference to what's going on across this. 1 second, Mr. Swirsky, I see you. With regards to the proposal that we'll be seeing in a couple of weeks, from what I understand, possibly. But directly behind this is a multifamily actually senior type of housing. Directly next door to this is the exact basic kind of use. I believe this is the second floor in those particular units on the west side of this proposed development. Are those apartments? I don't know off the top.
They're on the
assume
same
they are.
block. I think there are some apartments
Directly
immediately to
next
the
door
west.
is apartments with that first floor retail use. So this is, and like I said, I don't want to influence anything one way or another, but in terms of this particular use here, there has been plenty of community input. There's been, and especially with What's Next organization, Block Club folks have been involved with it, and the community at large has been part of the discussion. So but these are good questions.
Also working with the agency on developing the overall plan.
Absolutely, yes, they have been, and I've attended plenty of their meetings in terms of the What's Next group. So it's good questions, though. Any other, Mr. Swirsky?
Well, I just want to make a comment that it's. I'm impressed with the use of space. I mean, utilizing a mixed-use plan, I think, is really good. There's some really good green features here with the previous pavers, and so obviously we'd want other projects to make some recognition that our CSO is kind of a costly endeavor for our citizens, and it seems like you guys are doing that, plus making green space available to the community. And I applaud your collaborative effort, not only with each other, but with other organizations in the neighborhood. And so this is a good model that is kind of thing that I think we want to see more of this kind of thing happening in our city.
Thank you. Mr. Mobian.
Who would qualify to live in this facility? Are these low-income individuals, or anyone that, are these market rate or subsidized?
This is, the apartments will be built for seniors, 55 and older.
Okay.
And anyone living in the city that meets our qualifications can live in this facility.
Just seniors?
Seniors.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Mr. Milkovich?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of the committee, I'm excited. And I thank Mr. Appleton for bringing this project. I grew up not too far from this area, over on Margaret Street, and I remember growing up in the early 70s that this part of the city was one of the most vibrant, hustling, bustling parts of the city. And when Mr. Appleton said the historical Middlebury area, it truly is. This will bring much-needed housing to the city, and also much-needed, more importantly, much-needed employment to the city. I feel it's going to be a connector with all these great things that are happening downtown in East End development, to be right almost in the, smack in the middle. There's so much traffic flow that flows through that area. If we can just get people to stop and come and spend money, it's going to help residents of Ward 10. It's going to help the city overall. And I respectfully like to have my name added to this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And Sims?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too appreciate always the work that ENDC does, and they do a significantly good job and have done for decades. In light of, and I appreciate progress, I love the whole mixed use, and I look forward to seeing it in the heart of downtown. But in light of some of the conversations that we had recently regarding the homeless camp, I would feel remiss if that wasn't a part of the conversation, or at least acknowledgement, although we've seen nothing formally or official. And so it'd be good to know how we plan to address, or if in fact we're going to address, some of the concerns that they've brought recently here to us. So it's not, I get it, they too are a part of the city, because we know. I just thought it made sense that we acknowledge that, and if there are plans, I'd like to know what those are. So thank you.
If there's any comments from the planning department on that? No comments? Okay, thank you very much, duly noted. Very good. Any further questions or comments? Very good, hearing none. We'll now move on to item number 2, which is ordinance authorizing a conditional use to construct a 40-unit townhouse development at North Main Street and Olive Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Testa Enterprises, Inc., in conjunction with the International Institute of Akron, is proposing the development of the International House of San Tommaso, a 40-unit housing complex for refugee settlement in the city of Akron. The project will involve the construction of 5 townhouse apartment buildings consisting of 25 3-bedroom and 15 2-bedroom fully appointed units. 2-story buildings will be clad with clapboard siding and stone veneer in various neutral earth tone shades and asphalt shingled roofs. Staggered walls, roof lines, alternating porch roofs, and other architectural details all would provide visual interest. Circulation and parking drives from Schiller Avenue and Mosser Place would lead to a central open space and common area that also serves as a dry detention area for stormwater. Parking for 84 vehicles is provided along the outer perimeter of the drive, allowing pull-up parking for all the units. The proposed residential development is being financed through tax credits from the Ohio Housing Finance Agency and represents a significant investment in this North Hill neighborhood. Planning staff is of the opinion that the apartment development is an appropriate transition in both use and scale between the hospital to the south and the church and residential neighborhood to the north. Additionally, the project serves a particular need in the neighborhood to provide the refugee support. Both Planning Commission and planning staff recommend approval subject to conditions.
Thank you, Mr. Antonucci. Very good. We'll open up the public hearing and ask those that wish to speak in favor of the conditional use on North Main Street to please come forward. Anyone wishing to speak in favor?
So again, I'm Joel Testa, President of Testa Companies, 21 Furnace Street. I'm basically just here to answer your questions. I will tell you this project's been one that we've been trying to get funded for now about 7 years, starting as a senior project. We went several rounds and tried to get funding through the Ohio the low to moderate income tax credit program. The challenge that we always received in the past was that the state recognized that there was a need there for senior housing in Akron, sort of affordable senior housing, but the neighborhood wasn't what they deemed walkable enough in the years past. And now, as the landscape in this North Hill neighborhood's changed, with a lot of the refugee immigrants that have moved in, those services with refugees. So this project was resubmitted this year as that and was awarded. We have, by the way, worked with the church across the street. And my family's been very integrated in this neighborhood. My grandparents, my uncles grew up next door to the church. My family helped build the church. So we've taken a very active role in making sure that we engage them. The church did have some concerns about our former site plan, which was revised, and that's what's submitted now to move the entrance to the driveway up slightly west of the intersection, getting up further up the hill. So I'm here if you have any questions.
Thanks. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of the proposed conditional use on North Main Street?
Again, my name is Bob Warner with Environmental Design Group, 450 Grant Street. I have an exhibit. It's up there on the board. I can show you the site plan. This is the site plan for our project. As Joel mentioned, I brought the original site plan that was submitted to the Planning Commission. Joel has provided you with an alteration there. The only alteration that we've done is working with the church. They had a concern about the driveway, so we have, just to orient yourself, here's Main Street, here's the hospital down here, St. Thomas, we got Olive Street and Mosser, the church is up here. We had, originally we had our driveway that kind of came out onto Mosser between the church and the rectory, and through previous or further discussions with the church, they've asked us to try to alter that. So we've, what Joel has presented there, we took this building and slid it down and moved the driveway entrance over to this location. So that's the only difference between these two. As we mentioned, we have a number of buildings. If you're not familiar with the site, this has probably it's about 25 feet of grade change across here as you go up from Main Street. So what we're doing is we don't have any access on the Main Street at all. We have the single entrance off of Mosser Place. We have another entrance coming off of Schiller. We've got a long building that faces Market Street. We're going to have to put some retaining walls, or not Market, but Main Street. We have to put some retaining walls here because of that grade change. You know, we're trying to flatten and make this so this building doesn't have to step down the hill, so it's up pretty much on a plateau. These buildings, we're looking at all being single-level buildings throughout. We have a community center and our trash location that comes off of Schiller Street. Again, we've got some significant grade change here from Olive Street as you come across from the hospital. It goes up a big hill, so we've got, on this side, we've got a collector sidewalk that comes in across the front of these buildings that will get the residents to come back into here. We have interior parking. We also have it designed so so we have a larger green space in the center of the site is where we'll direct all of our stormwater management to. So there'll be dry ponds, but they'll be designed to be very shallow, so that during dry periods, then there'll be play areas for the kids in the community here. Also, it'll be all our pre-treatment for our stormwater for that. So it's all internal parking for that. I think we exceed the parking requirements in this particular project. And that's it, in case you have any questions.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak against the proposed development on North Main Street? Anyone against? Very good. Hearing none, a couple questions. Did the traffic engineer review the movement of the entrance and exit on Mosser?
Yes, and then the traffic engineer will also have to approve of that once the permits are coming in, but yes.
Okay. Did the, other question is that, is this, I see here that item number 8 is the exterior building facade, wall, and other surfaces is going to be, according to these pictures here, frame, I guess, stucco, is that correct? Stucco and in frame.
Yeah, you won't have stucco, mostly because we really can't in Northeast Ohio. If there is a stucco-like material, it'll be ephes, stone. They will be siding. They'll keep very much with the neighborhood that's there, so it'll match the existing architecture.
Good, good. Yeah, because it seems like there's a lot of brick in the neighborhood there. It seems like that might be a good way to go. So, good. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Mobian?
So this is finally going to happen. Yes, ma'am. And the International Institute will settle people in here because they find places for people as they come to the area. Or how would that work?
So the International Institute is our partner. They're a nonprofit partner in the projects. And with most all of our projects that are serving some type of a population in need, we try to partner with somebody that specializes in working with that group. Here it's the International Institute because they're mostly refugees. So when they come in through their system, They would then refer them over to the manager on the project and work to place them. It is multifamily housing, so it's not exclusive to refugee population, but they have a priority. So as long as there are ready, willing, and able refugees going through International Institute, they'll get the first choice of the housing that's there. And then there's a 4,200 square foot community building that will have offices for International Institute to have a presence there on site, as well as a site manager. There's business offices, there's classrooms, so they'll be conducting some of the services that they provide right on site to the residents. So workforce development, language classes, all those types of things will happen right there.
So which one of the buildings will be that?
That is in the bottom left-hand corner, I believe, in what you're looking at. It's the southwest.
Is it building
it's labeled as Building 1.
Okay. And this middle section, in the middle of the parking area, this is all what?
It's designed to be like a park, internal park, so that everybody can, it's green space, but the idea by that centrally located park is that everybody's residents can look upon it and everybody can sort of keep eyes on the kids in the green space. So sort of a protected pocket park, if you would.
Is there anything in this block now?
There is, in the southwest corner, there's a building that SUMA is currently using and an adjacent parking lot.
It's going to be torn down?
Yeah, they really don't need it. I mean, SUMA is trying to figure out, what to do with the whole St. Thomas Hospital campus. It's not being utilized by them anymore. A substantial amount of it's vacant, so that would be part of the demo and redevelopment.
Okay. And that's not the detox outpatient center? Or do you know?
I'm not entirely sure what's in that building, although I think it's just administrative. But like I said, I think it's underutilized, that the services that are being provided in the hospital system right now. So, and for the moment, that's staying there.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Very good.
The target population to live in this facility?
Well, it's family housing, so traditionally it will be families. They're 3- and 4-bedroom units, and as I said, it is a low to moderate income project, so the incomes can't exceed $39,000 and some change is what the limits currently in Akron of moderate income is, and then the preference is refugee population. So refugees coming into the city of Akron working through International Institute.
Yeah, having this shared space in the center kind of fits a little cultural. It's kind of congruent with some of the culture of the people who live in North Hill, in terms of extended families, watching each other's kids,
right,
working together. It's nice to see that you kind of figured out a way to blend in with the culture that you're trying to serve.
Well, keeping the history of North Hill, it's always been a culturally rich community. And, as those cultures have changed over the years, currently this project is meant to fit that gap.
Very good. Mr. Neal?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Like what I see in the project, I'm thinking 40 units. If the families reflect a lot of what I see on the hill, that means there's going to be a lot of children, potentially. Now, I know we have the park across the street, but that's a busy street to cross. Do we have any land around here that we can earmark to maybe support activity for children here? Because outside this is kind of anything to support this development as far as an outdoor park area? Because I'm curious, the school, do they have a pretty healthy playground there that can be utilized?
I don't know if I would say it's healthy, and I don't know what the programming is of the school playground in terms of after hours or people that don't attend the school can use it. That is the reason we put that pocket park in the middle, but obviously there's always room for more green space and recreation.
Yeah. I'm just trying to see how we can support what's taking place here, because I know there's a nice park across the street, but it's across the street and that's not your regular street. Just curious.
Waters Park is across the street, and there is some additional green area below that retaining wall, but that is closer to Main Street. Right. I mean, my recommendation would be that we do look, as this project develops, of maybe doing some things to calm the traffic on Main Street, maybe add some time to that crosswalk to make it more conducive, because that's a really great park, and it is somewhat underutilized. So I think taking advantage of that great park that's already there, and as you indicated, doing something to the street to make it a little safer to cross, because it is a busy street.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Antonucci, I see here on the development plan here, the site plan, that there's going to be walk all the way around. I assume that's going to be the responsibility of the developer, that they're going to, in fact, put in walk?
Right, and that's,
All the way
yeah, that would be, this a condition that walks and curbs be restored and maintained, yep.
Very good. I think this is a great idea, that, you know, International Institute, the North Hill community is just a real good idea. And then having a place where the Institute can be housed on the same parcel with them. And also being close, although I know there's some uncertainty, reference the hospital across the street, but having that so close by is another asset that you know, our new Akronites could enjoy. Any further questions or comments? Very good. We welcome you back this evening at 7 o'clock. Very good. With that, we'll take time on the balance of the agenda, and we have one item that's a new piece of legislation. Urging the President of the United States and the United States Congress to continue the federal historic tax credit program and to otherwise provide respect thereto and declaring an emergency. I'm a co-sponsor of this with the mayor. I know that there's a couple of things that are going on, reference some proposals from the federal side. We have here in Akron benefited from the federal historic. If we could, thanks guys. I just want to, thank you. We here in Akron have benefited from the historic tax credit program quite a bit, as a matter of fact. And I know we have some other, we're hoping, developments may be moving forward, hopefully in the future, utilizing and capitalizing, if you will, on federal historic tax credits. So that's the reason for this. A friend of mine who has been involved with the historic tax credit program brought this to my attention. And so that's what this is. And if, you know, there's a number of projects that and they're listed here in the whereas clauses that could be, that would have probably not happened in our city had this program not been in place. And they're listed under like the sixth whereas clause here, I think. So that's it. If there's any questions or comments, I'm not in a major league hurry on this. And I don't know from the federal side, Helen Tomic, is there a rush on this particular item? We could take a week's time, put on the consent or what have you. But yes.
Just to add to that, first, the mayor's administration is very supportive of this legislation. That historic tax credits are important. Helen and I were talking earlier. I think Congress is trying to get this tax reform sometime before Christmas. There's, I think, a week or two. There is some time. We've also been told, I think, that the new market tax credits are
exactly.
also
That's something else that's in play.
In question. And one thing I just wanted to add for the benefit of the committee, I don't have data on this to confirm it for sure, but I've been told by housing experts that these tax credits actually, in the end, probably generate more revenue for the federal government. You know, so I think from a fiscal standpoint, it's even more problematic why these would be on the chopping block, because not only are they a great incentive to restore historic buildings and add the housing we need, but they're probably actually a net benefit on the federal budget. So I don't have numbers that can confirm that, but that's what I've been told.
Okay. Well, in the new tax credits, I believe that would warrant a separate resolution from council, because that would have a pretty profound impact on our residential development here in our city. So I would ask the administration, the planning department, if they could help with regards to developing something like that perhaps for next week. I think that would be good, because this is these type of proposed cuts would definitely have an adverse effect. Is there any questions or comments from anyone? Committee? Hearing none.
Just, I hadn't thought about this too much before, but take a look at all those buildings, and you talk about that are Akron, institutions here. If we hadn't had the federal tax credit, it's obvious that they've now are serving our community, really meaningful ways. Another side benefit that doesn't always come up though is think about the environmental impact of tearing down all these buildings and distributing the waste to other places. So it does sometimes doesn't come to prominence, but it does have an environmental benefit too by saving these buildings. And I can see one right now on East Market where the ballet center was next to the First Congregational Church. That's a building that we'd like to keep open. I mean, I think everybody does. And something like the federal tax credit would sure help.
Very good. Yeah, just to review briefly here, the Gothic Building, Soapbox Derby Factory, Sealy Building, Andrew Jackson House, Kaiser Building, ACNY Building, the Metropolitan Building, Goodyear Hall, Cascade Loft, Firestone Triangle Building, and the United Building. This is about $30 billion that we've seen. So, like I said, it just kind of makes sense that this is something that we need to preserve and encourage Congress to keep in place. So, with that, was the pleasure of the committee. Consent agenda, or we can, I'll be happy.
Recommend we pass it tonight.
Approval. Is there a second? I will second that. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I thought it was said that we could hold it for...
I didn't hear a motion,
Okay.
so if that's the wish, I'm good with
Is
it.
there a part? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. If you want to consent agenda, whatever you propose.
Okay, I'll change my motion to consent agenda.
Second.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All those in favor of the consent agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Very good. Thank you. We're adjourned. Oh, one last item. I'd like to entertain a motion that we approve the minutes of the previously held meeting.
Oh, so moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes,
One
Mr.
other
Mobian.
question. Could someone tell me where we are with item 11? Have we done anything with that? The conditional use to construct it's the Talbot McKinley.
Oh, good question. I've not talked to the ward council person on that particular item.
Still on the agenda, there's been no action.
Yeah, I think
We
that's...
did make some recommendations at the meeting when we had the discussion. Is there a plan to look at vacating?
Well, there was
that?
some discussion to look at the vacation of that, and we have that set for our planning commission, future planning commission agenda.
Okay.
But we have to get that out for comments to other departments specifically for that.
Okay.
It could be a little while before we can get that back to you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Further questions or comments? We're adjourned. Thank you.